Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us at our evening community coffee 5:30 edition. My name is Amanda Sutcliffe-Jones. I am your CSA Director of Communications. We have a large agenda today, so I will move through my slides. First up on my reminders is a welcome, which I've already covered, but just a reminder to those joining us in audience, be aware of the illuminated fire exits in case we need to use them. I hope we don't. Be aware of the restroom location as well, and then coffee and cookies this time instead of donuts, because donuts might be out at 5:30 in the afternoon, so we've done cookies this time. Thank you to those who are joining us via webinar. We had 52 people sign up for the webinar this afternoon, and they are continuing to join as the meeting progresses. If you could silence your cell phones, please, as a courtesy to the presenters, that certainly would be appreciated. Sea Pines Wildlife Guide. So we've gone over this before, but this is just a reminder of some really helpful community resources that the communications department has worked with other departments on to provide some additional resources to our property owners. So as a reminder, our Sea Pines Wildlife Guide is available. It's available online on our website, seapinesliving.com/wildlife guide. It is packed full of creatures and critters that live in sea pines in the local community and the low country itself. Really prepared to help you with an awareness of our local area, appreciate the environment, and then also some tips on how to conserve our environment. So that is still available for you guys. We are open to feedback on that publication. We're going to be looking at it on an annual basis. So please take a look at it. If you have any feedback related to changes, comments, recommendations, we are open to it. And you can send that to the communications department. Another helpful resource that we hope you guys have had a chance to take a look at is the Sea Pines Covenants and Land Use Documents resource. So this is available on our website. You can see it's available at seapinesliving.com/land use records. So what is this document all about? So CSA has requests frequently for documents related to sea pines, and we have put together as a complimentary service compiled documents with the intent to provide links to copies of the recorded covenants and land use documents regarding sea pines. The document itself is over 900 pages, so it's really, really in-depth. I encourage you to take a look at it. The records date back all the way to 1956. And just as a quick little example, if you were to pull it up on your computer, you could peruse through the actual resource itself, select the item that you're looking to open, and it actually opens the document right there for you. With 900 pages, do be careful with your print function because your computer will accidentally print 900 pages, but hopefully a very helpful resource for you guys. Our communications coordinator, Jean McElroy, covered this recently is our Sea Pines Community Guidebook. This is not only for new property owners, but also for current property owners. We've had some folks who have lived in here for 15 or 20 years come to our staff and say, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that there was this or there was that. So another really helpful resource that we put together for you guys. It's available online at seapinesliving.com/community guide. And here, just an example of the table of contents full of really helpful information. Next up on our agenda is the CSA and ASPO Board of Director election information. So there are 3 seats for the CSA Class A Board of Directors. Those positions commence on January 1st, 2020. 3 spots also for the ASPO Board of Directors. Your nominating committees for ASPO were Charlie Miner as a chairman, Barry Barth, and Paula Scanlon. For CSA nominating committee, we had Michael Tucker, Stu Rodman, Barry Barth. Mark Griffith serves as ex officio on that CSA nominating committee. So the nominating committee candidates, the following candidates were recommended by the nominating committees. For ASPO, we have David Ellis, Dana Gazzo, Grover Todd. Those are all the ASPO candidates that were recommended by the nominating committee. The following candidates were selected by the Class A nominating committee for CSA to run for the 2020 Class A positions. They are Diedrich Avocott, David Borghese, Dave Ellis, David Pardue, and Robert Quinn. I'm going to cover this topic before I go to the next slide, but our deadline for nomination by petition was yesterday, October 1st. We did not have any submissions, so that is your full slate that you see in front of you. So our next slide will just continue to communicate that we did not have any petitions received. So again, that previous slide shows your candidates. couple of important deadlines to remember upcoming. October 23rd at 2 p.m. our Meet the Candidates Forum will be held here in the Community Center. Meeting attendance can be done in two ways. You can attend in person with a seat reservation, or you can attend via webinar. So staff is working to get both of those reservation systems set up, and we will have those communicated out to you guys on October 9th at noon. So please be aware of that release date for those available tickets. As you can see, this is about a full book for us in this room. We can seat about 100-ish people. So we do have some limitations for in-person seating, but no restrictions on webinar. So more to come there. October 9th at noon is when we'll release those bookings. November 1st, 2019 is when the ballots will be mailed for both CSA and ASPO, and it goes to the notice of mailing on record. So that's an pretty important thing. If you're not in your normal notice of record, please let us know so we can make sure we get it to the correct address. And they will be due back by December 1st, which is the deadline for returning the ballots. Upcoming events, the Sea Pines Artists of Sea Pines reception will be held here on Friday of this week from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Join the artists as they display their latest works. For more information, you can contact Rosemary Kimball. For the folks that are in audience right now, you can take a peek around and see they have some great works. This is all done by people who live in Sea Pines. They're your neighbors. I've been surprised to see people's names who I didn't even know were artists, and they have just beautiful, beautiful work. So definitely something to consider if you're available on Friday. Community flu shots, October 8th from 1 to 4. If you are on Medicare, it's free. If you're not, it's a $35 cash or check payment. You can call the number on the screen to sign up. Walk-ins all welcome, but they will be seen after those with appointments. Community blood drive on October 16th. It's going to be from 9 to 12. It's going to be at the community center, but they are bringing the actual blood mobile, so they'll be right out front in the parking lot. Walk-ins are welcome, but you can also register on our website. David will speak more about the upcoming yard sale, so I won't go into too much detail there, but definitely a great event if you are able to participate as a setting up a space, or if you just want to come and see what's for sale. It's going to be on October 19th. Medicare Education Workshop. So first time that we're going to be trying this in Sea Pines. So this is something that our events and activities coordinator is working on to bring it to the property owners. It's on October 21st, and it's from 10 to 12. There will be a separate session in November, but it's a free free Medicare educational seminar, which will offer tools and resources to help better understand the coverage that might be right for you if you're eligible. And I mentioned already the Meet the Candidates event on the 23rd. In November, mentioned it just a bit ago, a second session of the Medicare Education Workshop. So if you're interested and cannot make it on the October event, you can check out the November event. David will speak about the Bonfire as well, and then save the date for the property owner open house that's hosted by CSA, planned for December 10th. More details are coming soon to property owner emails. So how to contact CSA. If you have had your phone number changed, if you've had your email changed, if you have had your notice of mailing changed, just like I previously mentioned, you can definitely reach out to us. We can be available by phone. Our offices are open Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4:30 at 175 Greenwood Drive. You can also email our general inbox at info@csacpines.com. That comes straight to me, and I'll be happy to work with staff to get your information updated for you. And one more thing. If you were able to attend our governance committee task force town hall just a moment ago, we had that just before this meeting. We are looking for feedback from the community related to their presentations. The 6 different task forces within the governance committee made presentations. We will be posting that video when it is available, most likely tomorrow morning once we get that rendered and uploaded to our YouTube page, but that will be coming out to the community as well along with this reminder, but just wanted to make sure that reminder went out to you guys in the audience. We are soliciting feedback from today through the 23rd of October. We ask that you send in your feedback by 4:30 p.m. on the 23rd of October. And again, seapinesliving.com/governance feedback to make your submission. At this point, I'd like to welcome Dick Matthews to the stage. Dick Matthews is a co-chairman of the Land Use Management Committee, and he'll cover some information about the land use management. Dick?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. Couple of things. Unfortunately, our full-time land use monitor, Portia Ellis, had to leave us due to health reasons. So normally she'd be up here making this presentation. I'm in her stead. And as soon as possible, we'll do all we can to fill that position. She was a dynamo, and the most important point I want to make this afternoon is by installing just simple basic protocols for letters and for personal visits. We've had remarkable success on dealing with properties before they became problems or before they become problems. So the effort, I would just simply say, from April until now, hiring Portia, putting together the systems and protocols in place has a dramatic effect, positive effect. I do want to mention, this came up at the CSA meeting, I think in a question, and I think it was between two board members. And this is as good a time as any to get this out to the community. One of the things that we started to deal with are neighborhood standards, and it's extremely nebulous, difficult to get our arms around, but it is a given property in a neighborhood meeting the standards of that neighborhood. And where we have found the biggest challenge is in neighborhoods that are changing. And I think most of you that have been here a while have seen this, where some of the original pagoda style homes built on the ground in a neighborhood now are changing over, and with the floodplain rules and so on, the new homes are much higher. They look much different. A lot of them have landscaping that's different than the natural look that was part of the original homes. So how do we deal with that? And that's become one of the issues we're starting to look at. I just want to make the community aware of it. It's not something we're ignoring. We think it's going to continue to be a challenging issue. And it came up, as I say, I think at the last CSA board meeting, and I just wanted to make sure that I took advantage of this opportunity to tell the community we're aware of it. It won't be an easy solve, but we're going to stay after it. One more thing that's not an easy solve, but again, you need to know, we have on a number of occasions now dealt with problem properties in the sense of cleanup. We've authorized that the cleanup be done by an organization, and CSA has paid for that out of the CSA budget. And to date, I could be wrong, and maybe someone in the committee knows otherwise, but I don't think we've collected a penny back. It's been a challenge. Some properties in foreclosure, some just recalcitrant. But that's part of the deal and part of where we're at, and we're working on a way to solve that, to come up with a real enforcement mechanism where we can, if we have to, pay to have the work done and then recapture the cost. Just making sure that you know that we're spending your money, but we're doing our best to control that and find a way to recapture that. We won't be in this position at the end of the year, but I certainly hope by the end of the first quarter next year, we will have boiled things down to pretty much real problem properties. That's going to take us in another direction, and it probably will mean litigation somehow, some way, and that's going to be an entire issue for actually, I was going to say both boards, but it's three boards really now between ASPO, CSA, and ARB. It'll be a big deal, but we're trying to get it to where we really are concerned with the major problems here and get the routine things handled as well as they have been handled the last 4 months. And that's my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. So we will hear now from David Henderson, our Director of Special Projects and Operations, on his agenda items. David.
Good evening. Thought I'd start. Who was here for governance that didn't have to be here? So y'all, my hats are off to you. Although I do have to admit though that I heard a comment in between from a person that was at governance that says, great, I have time to go get a quick drink at Truffles. I hope you got your drink, and I hope you took some savage amusement by knowing how jealous you made me. So anyway, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. We've talked a lot about our beach and our boardwalks. As you may know, the Beach Trust property is owned by the Sea Pines Forest Preserve Foundation. And as you probably also know, Hurricanes Matthew and Irma significantly impacted our beaches, particularly the southern portion of our beaches. But as a result of the damage and the subsequent mitigation, renourishment, sand fencing, vegetation the town did, the Beach Trust had put a moratorium in place on the rebuilding of boardwalks. And that was lifted on May 1st of this year. At our last coffee, which was August, because September was canceled because of Dorian. So at our last coffee, I had told you on the second bullet point that we were getting ready to send out updated process information to owners so they know what the process is if they are desiring to rebuild their boardwalks. And that did go out on the 21st of August. Also, I told you that we are wrapping up our condition assessments of all the boardwalks in the Beach Trust, and that has also been completed. The results of the assessment were not too surprising in that the majority of boardwalks that are out there now are not up to best practice, but the main reason why they are not up to best practice is that they don't extend as far out as they should in order to protect the dunes. The reason is that the dunes have been recovering with the fencing and the renourishment, so the conditions changed since the boardwalk was built. But going forward, we're going to work with those owners through our process to let them know what the requirements are and what the best practice is, with all having the ultimate objective of doing everything that we can to protect our most valuable asset, which is our beach. This one just won't go away for those of you that may have been impacted, but I can, from the last update, report some slow incremental progress. As you may or may not be aware, last year, PSD's water towers at Tower Beach and also just down the road from here at Lighthouse and Plantation had to be repainted. Both towers have cell provider antennas on top of them. They had to be removed in order to repaint the towers. They installed temporary monopoles. You can see the example of this one at Tower Beach. As you can also see that temporary monopole is lower than what the top of the water tower is. So some people had their cell coverage affected, and we all rely on these things entirely too much today, but you know what I'm saying, and that it was a significant impact to some people. There are 4 providers at Tower Beach: Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. There are 3 providers on the tower at Lighthouse at Plantation. T-Mobile, Sprint is not on this tower, but the other 3 are. And so service was being impacted, and it's been a long story, but where we are currently at is that at Tower Beach, Verizon has moved back to both towers. Sprint has moved back, but only to Tower Beach because they're not at this tower. And AT&T, which seems to be the most issues that I've heard from owners, is nearly completed at the tower right here. And when they are done, they are immediately going to Tower Beach. So that is the update, that AT&T is working. Last email I had this morning is that we're anticipating AT&T will be at Tower Beach as early as day after tomorrow, Friday. So we're hoping that we're towards the end of this, what has been a year-long process, and I have no schedule update as of now from T-Mobile. Few Forest Preserve updates. We will be sending out our annual solicitation letter in the next couple of weeks. And we do rely heavily on the generosity of others to fund operations in the Forest Preserve. And this solicitation letter has historically provided upwards of half of our annual budget. So we hope that when you do receive it, that you will give it consideration as we try to take care of and make better our natural treasure. I mentioned at the August coffee, I showed a nice picture of a John Deere, really nice tractor that we rely on at times in the Forest Preserve. And I had told you that the Forest Preserve had a tractor and that it had a nickname that rhymed with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So I wanted to give it its due. It's circa 1990. I have it on good authority. It was originally powered by steam. has since been converted to internal combustion. But as you can see, it is a specimen. It is great when it's running. The issue is that it's not always running. But a hat's off to the mechanic at the shop. They have literally added baling wire and duct tape to baling wire and duct tape. We can't get parts for this thing anymore. I have towed it personally with a tow strap so much it may be difficult to see because it was kind of a light colored picture, but there's a hole in the push bar where we just finally figured it was the best way to attach a tow strap to tow it back to the shop. And this was when it was broken last week. The mechanic did a great job, got it going again. It did run for about an hour this morning, and then we had a separate unrelated issue. So it's back at its home in front of the mechanic shop. But when you get that letter, one of the things that you'll see is that we are hoping to replace this tractor with one that is functional and that we can get parts for. And as we are in our land management plan, post hurricanes in the forest preserve, having a good piece of equipment like this, primarily with a mowing deck on it, is very, very important as we maintain the forest preserve for you and your friends and for visitors. So please give us some consideration. It'll be about $30,000, the new tractor. So it's not an insignificant amount. And when you consider that the total budget of the forest preserve is on an annual basis is 175,000-ish, you throw in having one full-time person, their hourly wage plus the benefits, the annual initiatives that we do, planting the wildflower field, stocking catfish, printing maps, and you add all of this up, it's pretty tight. We have been able to make steady progress. We've been going through a cycle of capital replacements of our decks and our docks and our boardwalks. And if you all have seen letters or you've been into the forest preserve, you have seen, starting with the Ricefield boardwalk 6 or 7 years ago, we've had a major project each year, and we're nearing completion of that. Our next big initiative, which we wanted to finish this year, but unfortunately we're not, we're getting permits as we speak, is for the service road, which is currently in place across from the stables. We are going to turn that into the primary driving or vehicular entrance into the forest preserve. And there's modification of an existing bridge. There's a proposed new bridge for horses. There's a proposed asphalt leisure trail that would help separate conveyances, people from pedestrians and bicyclists from horses. Right now, it's all kind of a big spaghetti mix, and we want to improve safety. We want to make it easier to find the forest preserve. If you're not familiar with sea pines and you're trying to visit the forest preserve, you're wanting to go on an alligator boat tour, you're just wanting to go out and have a picnic, it can be difficult to find. And so we're trying to increase the visibility and make it easier to find. Next thing, our 2020 calendar. This will be our 11th edition of the Forest Preserve calendar. According to an email I got just before the meeting, it is expected to be delivered tomorrow. So we will have those available, $10 for retail sale. When you get your annual letter, and by the way, if you don't get a letter, we're going to send something out electronically as well, so that you'll have a chance if you don't get a letter. If you give $75 or more, we will mail you a copy of the Forest Preserve calendar. And I did want to call out James Hartley Smith. He has for all 11 years donated all of the photography that is taken in the Forest Preserve, and it's amazing photography. And I encourage you to take a look at one and to consider buying one if you would. They make great Christmas gifts. Talked about Amanda briefly, our community yard sale. It is Saturday, October 19th. For customers, it is open from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you are considering having a table, spaces are $30. There is a setup period prior to that. It's a great event. It's normally very well attended. We've lost a couple of years, one of which was 16 because of Matthew. But it's a great community event, and would encourage you to participate. We are looking for more vendors. And if you're not able to participate, clean out the garage, clean out the attic, would encourage you to come as a customer. It's a really nice event, and hope that you could attend. Bonfire, this is our signature event. So we talked about Forest Preserve and our budget. Our annual solicitation letter is responsible for about half our annual operating funds. We get a good chunk from our events as well. We have the Party in the Pines in the spring, and we have our signature event, the Bonfire. And the Bonfire is always the second Friday in November, which this year puts it at November 8th. from 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. We will have tickets available beginning October 10th. You can go online and we'll have additional information available to pay with credit card. If you want to pay with check or cash starting October 10th and thereafter, you can come by CSA. Man, I hate to pitch on the spot. Is it possible to zoom in or not on the menu? I don't know if you can do that or not. The menu is once again going to be donated by the Salty Dog. And if any of you were at the Bonfire last year or at the party in the Pines earlier this year, they did a fantastic job. They are donating this to the Forest Preserve. And I hope you can read it, but I'll just quickly read it in case you can't. It's just a sneak peek that they are providing for the menu. They're having a pumpkin hummus with rosemary chips, smoked fish dip, cranberry and brie tartlets, shrimp gumbo, baked pretzels and bourbon mustard sauce, grilled salmon with apple brown butter vinaigrette, cider brine pork chops, and maple bacon chutney. It's hard to read sideways. Venison skewers, Cabernet pot roast, a autumn squash gratin, roasted Brussels sprouts with a balsamic glaze, assorted pies, and their Forest Preserve in-house homemade ice cream. So this is the offering that they're going to put up for us. We have an open bar, we have entertainment, we will have a limited silent auction. Tickets are $75 a piece. I would argue quite strongly that that offering, and we will also have wine donated by Mr. Shelton and Shelton Vineyards again. I would argue pretty strongly that you could not go out to the grocery store and buy these items for less than $75 per person. You certainly could not go out for dinner and have that. And this is a fundraiser. So we're anticipating another great event and would ask that you consider supporting us. Again, Friday, November 8th. All right, my last slide, and then I'll turn it over to Russell. Wanted to introduce our new events and activities coordinator, Shakima DuPont. Shakima has been with CSA about a year, and you may recognize her smiling face because she was, during that year, at the CSA office in the security admin. So when you came in to get decals or hang tags or any of those things, you may very well have met Shakima. But I'm very excited to have her. Her first full-time day here was just Monday of this week. You see. Thank you, Shakima. But I'm really glad to have her because while I don't dislike setting up tables and chairs, I would rather not have to do it as much. So I am very, very excited. And she has an infectious smile and she's enthusiastic. And I think that you all are going to be very, very pleased as you have an opportunity to meet her, hopefully with some organization or group or club that brings you to the community center. So Shakima, thank you. All right, that's all I had. Appreciate your attention. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Russell Fredericks.
Thanks, Dave. Just, I think David got us all good and hungry now after he read that menu. Unfortunately, some of us won't be able to indulge about it later tonight. Regarding David's request for the tractor, I could vouch for him. I saw him towing this into our yard the other day, and it's literally on its last leg. So I would also offer to any help there as far as a donation. Please help us out with the Forest Reserve as that tractor needs to be retired. So just a few updates on our beach boardwalks. We've been working hard all season. Our contractor has done an outstanding job. We're on our final couple boardwalks. Beach boardwalk number 25 will be completed by tomorrow, and then we'll move to boardwalk number 26. This is actually a photo of number 25. And as David mentioned, we're bringing these boardwalks that we're building up to the new standards that have been put forth by OCRM and the town of Hilton Head. So we're excited about this. This is probably the most boardwalks that have probably been constructed in a year, right, Dave? 12 of them. Some of them quite long as we were crossing out to over the dunes into the mean high tide mark out there on the ocean. Just an update on North Sea Pines Leisure Trail widening. This is over by the Monarch and the Sea Pines Beach Club. We've been working closely with the Sea Pines Resort and the folks at the Monarch regarding this project. We've completed all the asphalt work. We have some small detail work to complete on site over there. But again, this will provide a better egress for bikers and pedestrians alike as they gain access through that area on their way to the beach club and whatnot. The leisure trail was quite a pinch point before we widened it, especially a lot of these larger bikes these days, the three-wheel bikes, and all the carriages making their way down to enjoy the beach. Plantation Drive Leisure Trail will be resurfacing in the upcoming weeks from Greenwood Drive to Lighthouse Road. As you can see from that photo, I've shown this one before, it's in dire need of repair. As our many leisure trails in the community also need a repair in the future years, but this will be our project for this fall. Want to mention in conjunction with this project, we've been working with the Leisure Trail Subcommittee, MEMP, and Safety and Security on adding what we're referring to as a leisure trail pull-off in this area here in front of the kiosk to provide greater accessibility for property owners and visitors alike. And here's a small diagram of it here. The existing kiosk and this brick pull-off pad will add a little bit of landscaping around this. We have 9 kiosks around the community in total, so this will be a prototype, and then we'll look to fund future opportunities in the years ahead. But again, this will provide greater access to the information that's posted at that kiosk there on Plantation and Greenwood. Just a few comments about some projects that Town of Hilton is working on. Control structures most recently have been repaired and completed. Oyster Landing, Wren Pond, Baynard Cove, Baynard Park Road is also been completed. Lawton Canal Pump Station, which is critical for storm response and lowering the levels of lagoons throughout the community. The town is expected to start on that in the upcoming weeks. We'll continue to work closely with them on that project. Mizumas Court, we had substantial failures in the drainage pipe down there. The town has completed that work, and the work on Ruddy Turnstone is hopefully we'll be completing that work again this week. So just a couple photos to share when we talk about control structures. You can see how large this is. This is the control structure that was replaced at Wren Pond. The old structure here, there's the brand new one. These are essential for managing the stormwater throughout our community. And you can again see the sheer size of this. These are terribly expensive to replace. And again, the town's been working through that process. And just to share a couple of photos of, this is from Ruddy Turnstone. You see on the right side, we had to set up dewatering operations as groundwater often makes its way into any sort of drainage project due to the elevation and high water table here in Sea Pines. And you can see here the old rusted galvanized pipes that failed or were replaced with concrete pipe in that road. Just a couple comments. I've shared this in previous coffees, and Amanda's pushed out a few announcements. But Lighthouse Road from Plantation Drive to Harbortown will be resurfacing this fall. We're hoping to start the week of October 14th. The project will probably last 10 to 12 weeks, and then it includes resurfacing of Lighthouse Road, stabilizing some selected areas in the road base, improving traffic flow in some areas, and increasing drainage efficiency. And just again, here's Plantation Drive, and we'll be resurfacing all the way to Harbortown. We've been working closely with the Sea Pines Resort, as well as all the merchants in the area of Harbortown to coordinate this effort. Regarding traffic flow, we're planning on alternating lane closures through this area, so we'll appreciate everyone's patience as traffic flow will be impeded at times. And a few photos, I've showed these before, but just the current conditions of the road. The roadway has been failing for some time, and it's now in a state of crumbling in some of these areas here. So again, the need to resurface this road. Just a couple comments about Hurricane Dorian. Obviously, we didn't get hit with it directly, but we still had a substantial amount of cleanup to do. We're still working on this. A lot of homeowners were not on the, obviously not on the property, and some still returning. We still have been receiving phone calls and emails from concerned property owners about trees and so forth. But I just want to take a moment to commend our staff. They did an excellent job of our safety and security department and the maintenance. We work closely together to secure the community and address these needs as they arose. But again, the cleanup still continues in some of the open space areas around the community. But again, our staff, outstanding work was done. And the last thing I just wanted to touch on, I've been working on this project for probably 2 years in terms of grounds maintenance and grounds care. CSA outsourced landscaping a couple years back. Oceanwoods has been the contractor on the property for that the last couple years. And since then, I've been really painstakingly looking at our open spaces and looking at the protocols and procedures and so forth and everything that we do on the maintenance. And I'm pleased to announce that we'll be awarding our new contract to Brightview for the next 3 to 5 year term. They are due to start here on November 1st, and my expectations are quite high about the results that we'll start to see around the community. I'll be working intensely with them as they gear up. They're a nationally based company, but have been working in the area in Bluffton, Hilton Head area for quite some time, and have taken on many large properties similar to Sea Pines, and again, have a high level of confidence in the results that we'll start to see. So just wanted to mention that because it's right around the corner. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Toby McSwain. So thank you very much, and any questions we'll take right after.
Good evening. The security department intercepted a package this morning. So if you were expecting delivery, it washed up on the beach. Been turned over to the sheriff's office. So if you'd like to go down and claim it, I'm sure that'd be interesting to know who it belongs to. It was a block of marijuana, by the way. Just a couple of announcements, and I'll go through these pretty quickly. We didn't have a meeting last month because of Dorian. We did. The evacuation went really well. Thank you guys that evacuated. If you're going to stay moving forward when we have storms, the town of Hilton Head is requesting that we try to find out how many people are staying behind. And we had quite a few people that stayed behind for Dorian, and we didn't get a direct hit from Dorian. We had roughly probably 10 roads that were blocked with trees that were across them afterwards. But I'll caution you, it's probably the best idea for you to leave. That way you go, you've got power, you can go and really probably have fun somewhere else, go to Disney World or whatever. We had an issue here in Sea Pines, which I've said this many times before, is that at the height of the storm, we had a medical emergency in here. And it several times EMS almost turned around because they were trying to drive an ambulance across the island to come to Sea Pines. So you have to keep that in mind. You may not get a tree through your roof, or you may not get water in your house, but if you have a medical emergency, and it does happen, and it happened during Dorian, they were lucky to get the woman out of here. So please keep that in mind. We still have to the end of November. We've had 13 named storms so far. So please make a plan. CSA, we are not your source of information to tell you about the storm. You need to go to the town of Hilton Head. You need to go to the sheriff's office website. That's where you get that information. We're not going to give you the coordinates of the storms. That's not what we're doing. We're just telling you if we've got an evacuation, we want you to leave, and this is how we're going to go about business. But please tune into one of those and stay updated. And with the storm, I came back the evacuation was lifted. I came back first thing Thursday morning and really made a right turn, went in the club course, and there's a couple of trees down. I had a chainsaw, so I started cutting them up. And I got back to my office, and the dispatch says, hey, we have got a couple of complaints. So I'm like, geez, we're just back. I mean, there can't be that many people here. Well, the property owner was complaining that the contractor cut the tree up and pushed it in the yard. I said, well, we don't have any contractors back here. So there was an older gentleman driving a gray pickup truck. I'm like, man, that was me. So I did the best I could, but on re-entry, all we're doing is opening the roadways up for the emergency medical, for the fire in case your house gets home, and for your neighbors to get to their home, because they were not going to drive around this tree that I cut up in the middle of the road. We are picking it up. I don't think there's anyone that's left from Matthew, Dorian, or Irma that has a tree left in the road that we cut up that we've never come and got. So it may not have been that day, but we were just trying to get the roads open. That's all it was. And that was actually the last tree we picked up for her old man comment. So trolley season, by all accounts, I think we had a really good and successful trolley season. We moved, this is without private chargers, 92,250 people during the trolley season. Let me point out that was 12,000 people fewer than we did the previous years in 2018. And everyone asked, well, why is that? Well, the gate pass through the end of August, we were down roughly, all passes together, roughly about 25,000 passes for the year. So it kind of makes sense that there's probably not as much activity on the trolley because we haven't sold that many passes. But on all accounts, it was a really good season. We had some numbers that really we scratch our head over. The South Beach route, it was down almost 3/4 of this number, almost 8,900 people fewer riding the South Beach trolley. And I talked to Bob Gossett about this. We can't figure out why. He thought he had a pretty good year, but just the ridership really was not there. But all accounts, it was very good. And before I talk about the beach shuttle, the trolley program itself, we operate 5 trolleys. We have 3 brand new ones that were ordered that came in at the beginning of the season. We have ordered our final 2, hope to have them just after the first of the year, and we'll replace the other 2 because they're really on their last leg right now. So hopefully at the first of the year, we'll have 5 brand new trolleys. They're a little bit bigger than we've ordered before. There's no more roll-up flaps. They're all windows that we can let down. They're air conditioned inside. I'll get with you in just a minute. And they're a much nicer ride. Turn-in radius, it's just a nicer trolley. The beach shuttle, we started that in March. It ran through September. We had 15,000, a little over 15,000 people ride the beach shuttle this year. It started out very slow. We had a couple of weeks where we didn't move a single person, but then as you can imagine, as the season began, it started to pick up. 2 committees, the gate entry committee as well as the short-term rental committee, have reviewed the numbers. Right now, they're planning to make a recommendation back to the CSA board to operate the shuttle for the same time period that we ran it this year. Victoria will talk about some financial numbers about that later, but I anticipate that will go back to the CSA board for determination. We have not determined where the lot's going to be. This last season, we started in 2, we went to 6. During the tournament, we went back to 2. Once the tournament cleared out of 8, we moved it to the final location was at Lot 8 at Fraser Circle. So we're trying to pick a spot where we don't have to do the shuffle because it's a little hard moving the signage and to notifying people where is the beach shuttle. But we didn't have any issues with the beach shuttle. It ran well. We parked 5,800 cars, 15,000 people rode it. So all accounts very good. Tower Beach, just a couple quick updates. The arms at Tower Beach have been working for over a year now. We are planning, if not sooner, around the first of the year to issue you a new ID card. So I would anticipate sometime in the latter part of March the gate arms will go down. You will need a new embedded ID card that we will issue that will open that up. Your decal on your car won't open it up. It won't be a keypad. You will need a property owner ID card that's embedded to open the gates at Tower Beach. So I'll keep you posted on that. And the storage items at Tower Beach underneath the rental units. We charge you for those, so you can't leave your beach stuff outside of one of the storage units. So if you're missing your beach gear, David, when is the yard sale? October, we'll be selling it. So all that beach stuff behind our office is getting shoveled up to lot 1, and we're going to put it up for sale and raise some money for the Forest Preserve. On the security side, there's not anything major that's occurring within the plantation right now. Vehicle break-ins, my neighborhood, I live in Spanish Wells, we had 7 vehicles broken into in our neighborhood, and literally broken into, I mean, bricks through the windows. They broke into the cars there. There's been, if you keep up with the Sheriff's Office Nixle program, there have been several communities in Hilton Head. They're looking for people they have warrants on right now for vehicle break-ins. We've been very fortunate. We've had a couple, and they were not break-ins. They were open the door and help yourself break-ins. So please be aware that that's continuing. They've not made the arrest in these cases, nor the rest that has occurred or the incidents that occurred in my neighborhood as well. So please, vehicle break-ins are continuing. We've had a couple issues with unleashed animals. If your pet leaves your property, it has to be on a leash. That's state law. That's not CSA or CPIN's covenants. That's state law. If you're in the Forest Preserve, your dog has to be on the leash. Your dog should be on the leash in the Forest Preserve, because I've had the 3rd report of coyotes chasing pets in the Forest Preserve. So they're very skilled hunters. And then one that was being chased was a 150-pound lab. So they don't care. So if you're in the Forest Preserve, you need to stay in close proximity to your pet. If you're having wildlife issues, please give us a call. We've had a number of calls so far. We make every attempt to deal with whatever the problem is, whether it's the alligator, the raccoons, the possums. The traps are working. We've been very active with the traps. So if you have an issue outside of your home, if the squirrel or the raccoons made it inside your home, you got to call someone else, because we don't do the inside work, but we'll help you out on the outside. Dumping, please, if you have someone that cleans your property, please have them. Your contractor that cleans your yard cannot drop your debris from your yard at a CSA location on the side of the street. It is a free service for them to bring that debris to the pit. They have to bring it to the pit. If we catch them, we're going to write them a ticket. So you need to let your contractor know that if they're too lazy to drag it, in the back of their truck and drive it to the pit, we're going to give them a ticket, and we're going to boot them out of Seapines, because we've already done that to companies. They're no longer allowed to come in and service homes in Seapines, because they illegally dumped stuff on the side of the road that maintenance has to pick up. It's illegal dumping, it's state law. We're going to cite them. So let them know, and it's not cheap. While you're out and about, missing traffic signs or leisure pass signs, please, if you see something, it's a quick phone call to either the security department or just anyone at CSA. Pick the phone up. We'll replace it. So they get knocked down. The college kids are here. They steal them, take them back with them, whatever the case. If you see something that's down, it's a quick phone call. Even though it might be a maintenance issue, call the security office. We'll jump right on that. We definitely want to get those replaced. House rentals, if you rent your home short term, you need to be within the program. Please don't call passes in for your renters. We're still continuing to deal with that, because we ask the people when they come to the Welcome Center, what are you here for? Well, I'm renting. Well, and this house is not listed on the rental program. That is the program. It's been set out by CSA. You have to pay for your rental passes. So please help us with that. Please do not give out your rental pass code. If you rent your property, we give you a rental code for you to call your rental passes in. We don't mix your rental passes with your personal passes. So please don't share your pass code. I said this when I first got here. We did an audit, and there was a former employee that worked here in Seapines that had called in 3,000 passes on someone's account. 3,000. Because we had not changed the passcodes in 15 years. But the person no longer lived in South Carolina calling them in. So please don't share your passcode, because that's just an avenue for something really bad. And if you rent your home, it's a great place to get married in here. I've done it 4 times. If you're gonna rent your home and they're gonna have a wedding at it, at your location, please have them contact security so we can plan this out. Last month, we had 2 weddings, and they rented 55 passenger buses from Savannah to move their guests around on a T street. You can't drive a bus down some of these T streets. So please, if they're gonna have a wedding, it's not a problem. Let us plan that out with them, with their transportation, the company that they're using, where their guest park. It's just, it makes it better for all of us, because you can imagine there was the parents were upset when we had to intervene, and it's like, and no one told us. We had no idea that there was a wedding taking place. Club course area, that real decorative pole that we put up in the middle of the planted median there, and that's got a little white thing on it. That is the camera. We installed that quite some time ago. Lightning took it out. We've replaced it. The camera is up, so if you're on club course and you're trying to exit to get out of Sea Pines, the gate staff, at both sides of the gatehouse, as well as the dispatch office, we're monitoring the camera. So when there gets 3 or 4 cars backed up, if you come to the gate, please wait for the gate staff to wave you through. We just basically hold the traffic up just a very short time, just not even a minute, just a short enough time so the cars can get out of club course. That's what the camera was installed for. So, okay, thank you.
I don't want to change them. Oh, the arrow. Oh. Just kidding. I'm Victoria Shanahan, Director of Finance and Administration. I promise I will be brief because I am the last to go, and I know I'm standing here between you and your cocktail, so I'm going to be quick. Toby mentioned the beach shuttle. We just want to put some numbers in front of you to show you. We took every time a car pulled in, they had a little tally and checked off what kind of pass was on that car, so we could keep track of who was using the beach shuttle. As you can see right here, it's mostly the short-term rental pass that's using it. Your property owner, not really, not a big. And again, these are cars, these are riders. Okay. And I wanted to show you, I thought this was kind of interesting, is to, okay, of the amount of rental, this is by month, of the amount of rental passes sold, how many of them were using the beach shuttle? So you're running about an average of 13 to 14%. I thought that was just sort of interesting information. Okay. And I'm working on our 2020 budgets. It's under construction. So I'll have more updates for you as we go through, as we get closer. I'm meeting with all the department heads as well as finance committee. So MEMP is involved. Everybody's got their hands out, you know, and we have limited funding. So this is my juggling act of the fall. And finally, Hurricane Matthew special assessment credit. It was determined by the board that as of October 31st, any funds that have not been spent will be credited back to the property owners, only the property owners that paid it. You know, not everybody paid the same amount. You know, some had unimproved lots, some had improved lots, but that I expect somewhere for an improved lot to be about $100 credit. And that will show up not as a check to you, it will show up as a credit against your 2020 assessment. There you go. There's, as of September 30th, there was $737,000 that had not been spent. As you remember, the total assessment was approximately $6.3 million. the boardwalks that Russell was showing you, a lot of those is Hurricane Matthew damage, and those funds are being used to replace a lot of those boardwalks. Go enjoy your cocktail. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Victoria. So at this time, we'll take a short meeting break, just a 3 to 5 minute meeting break, and then we'll re-adjourn for a question and answer session. So certainly refresh your drinks, use the restroom if necessary, but we'll join you just a moment. All right, everybody, if we can have everybody take their seats, we'll get back to the meeting. Thanks for taking that short break with us. We certainly appreciate it. All right, so just as a reminder to those joining us via webinar, we have enabled the Ask a Question feature, so that should be enabled on your device, whether you're using a mobile laptop, a mobile device, even an iPad, a couple different variations on which you might see depending on which device you're using, but that's your opportunity to type in that question. From a webinar perspective, we are asking that when you type in a question via the webinar that you use complete sentences so the staff that reads the question can actually ask it to the presenter. So just please be mindful of that. When we read the questions via the webinar, we'll also state the name of the owner who's asking the question, and we ask you in the audience to do the same thing, just to identify yourself when you get that microphone. So just as a reminder of what our agenda items were, we do have two folks with microphones, David over here and Jean is over there in the back. So thank you so much for running those mics for us this afternoon. So we'll open the floor to questions. Hello. We'll go ahead and get you the microphone to Jean. There you go.
I am Judy Markel. I have become a pickleball widow. My husband is at Palmetto Dunes playing pickleball now, and they are adding 10 more courts.
Right.
Just wondering if
you might never see him.
You're right, because he's in a tournament next weekend, and it's
Right.
pickleball. So my question is Sea Pines planning on turning any of the tennis courts into pickleball courts, because it is a money-making project?
We have had that request, or specifically to the resort. I can't comment on the resort. Victoria, I see you up.
Fortunately, CSA doesn't own any of the
That
tennis
was-
courts.
right.
They're all owned either by South Beach Racket Club or the Sea Pines Resort.
Okay, I mean, they're losing out on a lot of money. Okay, and is there a club? Okay, and he doesn't want to play in clay. Okay, and then one other quick question. What's going on? Are we privy to any of the lawsuits that are going on with the trolley or the alligator?
Victoria has a mic.
It's of a confidential nature. I can't make a comment of it. All of them, yeah. Unfortunately, yes.
But we have made that recommendation. I've had some owners recommend for pickleball courts in Sea Pines, so I've made that sent that recommendation on to the resort. So certainly they would be the one to contact related to the courts, since CSA doesn't own any of those types of operations. Other questions? You guys must really want drinks. We'll go back here and then we'll come up here to you, Christopher. Good evening.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Donna Schroeder. I have a question for Russell.
Russell.
When you drive along Governor's Road and running parallel is wood duck, the smell of the pond is
Russell, can I have you come to the mic for that?
horrendous.
I know on the camera for the webinar.
And I know it doesn't look good, but it smells worse. So
Thanks, Russell.
that's one question.
To try and answer your question, we have received other complaints on this. Unfortunately, with the Sea Pines drainage stormwater system, those lagoons in club course, including the lagoons that are out in the golf course and so forth, are fed by Calabogie Sound. So there's, and that is the main water feed. We haven't had rainfall, so that sulfur odor is being generated by that salt water that's moving into those lagoons. And it's the only water source that we have. That's how these lagoons were designed and engineered back in the day. Other communities do have the same layout. So unfortunately, we are seeing a turnover or discoloration in odor in those, hoping for some improvement in the upcoming weeks. So hopefully we get some rain.
Okay. Joni, is your question about that same thing? What's the other?
Jeez, we could have our own private conference here.
Oh, okay, wait, I'm gonna hand it off to her. I have one other question.
Sure.
You had Ocean Woods for about 2 years as an outside vendor?
3.
3.
Yes.
And you changed because you were not happy with them, and now you're going with Brightview, and you mentioned 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of wondering, and we can absolutely take this offline, but I'm kind of wondering why you'd extend it beyond more than 3, since your last one from 3 proved to be a time frame that gave you an opportunity to, evaluate them.
Mhm.
And would you contract with someone from longer? And I used to be a purchasing person.
In regards to that, from a financial standpoint, with any company of that size, your best offers are in that 5-year term because of lease agreements with equipment and so forth. And then, we have the option after 3 years to to walk away from the contract if we see fit. But we're expecting and hoping to extend it to that 5-year term. But yes.
Hi, Joni Harris. Since Russell's up here, it's another lagoon question. What about the lagoon as you're coming in the Ocean Gate off to the right near, I guess it's near Lawton Woods? It's just green and scummy right now. Is that?
You're speaking about the lagoon coming in the back gate at what's also known as Fairway Lane?
Yeah.
Lagoon?
Yes.
That is not
it's the only really green scummy one I see.
That lagoon is filled with duckweed. We've been in communication with Fairway Lane Villas and the property management company that operates that property for Fairway Lane. We've recently taken some action there, hoping to see some improvements with the quality of that lagoon. As we have interceded in that instance, and they have, what they informed me, contracted with a new vendor for lagoon treatments moving forward. So hoping to see an improvement there, as it's a detriment to the surroundings as you come in the Ocean Gate. So.
Thanks, Russell. Thanks for that question, Joni. Christopher, you had a question.
Christopher Cliff, a question for Toby. Toby, during the past 6 years, I've heard you quite frequently mention the efforts you and your staff have gone to enforce covenants. At the recent board meeting, the directors passed a motion changing the accessibility to Tower Beach in direct contravention of the covenants. How are you and your staff going to react to that new instruction? That was not, it hasn't been mentioned on this meeting. That was at the governance meeting.
That was passed, correct. And as I said at the governance committee meeting, that's going to be rescinded, but nothing has been done to initiate those access cards. So it's stopped completely as far as any activity going on. There's no entrances going in there, and that'll go away.
One thing I just did want to mention is not responsibility of safety and security to enforce the covenants. Correct. I just wanted to.
Thanks for that question, Christopher. Other questions? Questions from the webinar, Jean, as well, just to make sure I don't miss anything. Do you need a microphone? Are you good? There we go. Sorry for the delay.
Yes, we do have a question from the webinar.
Thank you.
This is from Terry Weiss, and her question is, I'll read it verbatim. My detailed yet concise opposition report to the proposed ASPO bylaws was utterly ignored at the last ASPO meeting on September 19th. Not one item in it was discussed. Will there be additional public comment on the proposed latest version 11, of the proposed bylaws before the matter is sent to membership for a vote?
Thank you for reading that, Jean. Let's see, I'm scanning the audience for ASPO members. I think we're Barry, if you'd like to comment, certainly we will have you up, but I can also comment on the matter. So the bylaws that the ASPO board voted on at their September meeting have been posted on our website. Staff has direction to bring those to the ASPO membership for a vote, and we're working with the printer and required CPA Elliot Davis to work on dates to be able to determine when we can get that to the membership. So at this point, they were voted on by the board. It's not my understanding that any additional feedback will be taken. There was 2 separate rounds of feedback opportunities given to the property owners to review those bylaws, and staff has direction to bring that to a vote for membership. We'll look forward to giving you that date when mailing will be able to be executed, but I'm working really diligently to get a package together so we can get that information to the board to set that date. So that's the information that I have for ASPO bylaws. Thanks for that question, Terry. Other questions? We have a question here, David. Okay. Good evening. Nope.
Sean Marin.
There we go.
Who owns the lagoons? I was confused because I thought that CSA like dealt with them, but then you said that the one that is green was the Fairview who had to do something to it. So who owns the lagoons?
Great question. We'll have Russell address that for you.
So the lagoons are a complicated one. They're owned by various entities. Sea Pines Country Club owns some, CSA owns some, Sea Pines Resort owns some, and some are owned by private regimes. So all depending on the location of the lagoon. Some lagoons are half and half. CSA might own a portion, the resort might own a portion. It's fairly complicated depending on where the property lines fall. So I don't know if hope that answers your question. So.
Other questions? We have a question back here. Good evening, Larry. How are you?
Hi, Larry Machuda. I don't have a question, but I have a comment about the lagoon because I was in a POA president meeting. Fairway One owns that property. They've been working, trying to get it. They understand the duckweed is horrible and they know that, and they've contracted, and they must have, Russell probably knows more than I do about it, but they even asked to have CSA help them because they've had a contract with somebody to do something with it, and evidently it's not getting done properly. And so there's kind of a fight there. So anyway, they're well aware of it. They hate it. They say it stinks. They know it, and they're trying to do something about it.
Thanks for that.
Just for your.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Larry. That's very helpful. Okay, we have a question in the back. Thanks, Sandra. Good evening.
Tammy Graves.
Hi, Tammy.
I had a question about the flowers, so I don't know. So we were talking about the tractor and it being $30,000, which I didn't think it was that much because they spend so much on the flowers every year. I always notice that the flowers are just really getting good in like March, and then they take them all out to put in all geraniums just when they're really beautiful. And I think, how much money do they spend on that when we're concerned about $30,000 for a tractor? I don't know. We did landscaping at our neighborhood where we live in Kansas City, and we spent a lot of money as a neighborhood. And I just can't even imagine how much Sea Pines is spending on like changing everything all the time. I don't know.
Great question. Yeah, I'll have Russell and David comment on that question because it's two different budgets essentially. One that Russell can speak to from CSA, and then David from the Forest Preserve. So we'll have them answer this question.
Yeah, Amanda covered it well. Just for a point of clarification, the Forest Preserve Foundation is a separate corporate entity from CSA, and while there are relationships, there is no money that goes from CSA, from assessments or from gate revenue that goes towards operating the Forest Preserve. That's why we do rely so heavily on philanthropy, the annual solicitation letter, and our fundraising events that we do. So as it relates specifically to the tractor, that is separate from CSA, and I'll let Russell comment on the flower change out.
Regarding your comment on the flowers, obviously we do spend good budget on those. We have streamlined that in our new contract with our new vendor, Brightview. We were doing about 4 rotations a year. It'll now be about 2.5 rotations of flowers a year. So we've changed that approach moving forward. So.
Hope that information was helpful for you. Good. Other questions? Yeah, we'll bring you a microphone. Hold on for 1 second. We'll just bring you a microphone so we can make sure everybody on the webinar will hear you and those in the audience as well. There you go. Thank you.
The preserve.
Yes.
How much of that belongs to us?
To who? Right. Okay.
Who
Perfect. We'll have David address that question.
So the Forest Preserve is about 600 acres total in size. The majority landowner is the resort. The Sea Pines Forest Preserve Foundation owns 90 acres outright, but we have a long-term lease. We're in the middle of the first 50-year term, and we have an option to renew for an additional 50-year term for about another 310 acres on top of that. So the foundation owns 90, has a long-term lease for about 310. The balance is about 200 acres, and of that 200 acres, about 170 is owned by the resort. So the Southbound Public Service District also owns portions of an environmental sanitation zone. There are 3 zones in the Forest Reserve. But the answer to your question is that the majority of the acreage is currently owned by the resort, but the majority of the acreage from an operational perspective is either owned and or under long-term lease by the foundation.
So we can't really do anything with it.
Well, there are covenants that prohibit and prescribe uses that are allowable in the Forest Reserve, and it's dependent on which zone it is. But across all the zones, there can be no buildings, commercial activity. There's very limited use and activities that the covenants that are prescribed that can be done out there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just under the impression that there was a section of the preserve that we own ourselves.
So again, Amanda's question is who is we? And if the question is the
Property owners are already occupied.
so if it,
Who owns, do we own any of it?
well, the Forest Preserve Foundation owns 90 acres. Okay. The resort owns the bulk of the balance between that and 600, but an additional 310 is under long-term lease from the resort by the foundation. But CSA does not, if that's the question you're asking when you say us, CSA, and again, remember, if you were here for governance, we're talking about commercial, resort, residential, all fall under CSA. CSA does not have any land interest or ownership in the Forest Reserve.
Thank you, David. Any other questions before we wrap up? Jean, anything from the webinar before we finish? All right, thank you so much for coming this afternoon. We certainly appreciate your attendance. Have a fabulous evening.